Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating analysis of macroeconomics and global capital flows. We are going to explore the insights of author Oluyomi Ola David. She has put forward an incredibly compelling perspective on how developing nations actually survive and fund their growth. And what makes her approach so unique is that she looks entirely past the standard, kind of sterile bureaucratic charts and graphs of international finance. Instead, she focuses on a story that is deeply, fundamentally human, and she basically asks us to totally reevaluate the very foundation of how capital moves across the globe. Now, we've all heard the famous medieval proverb, blood is thicker than water. We usually think of this purely in terms of family loyalty, personal relationships, or, dramatic movie plots. But Ola David brilliantly applies it to a totally unexpected context. She takes this ancient piece of wisdom about human connection and uses it as a lens to decode modern multi-billion-dollar financial systems. So, how exactly does a proverb about family loyalty explain global economic survival? It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But as we're about to see through her analysis, the bonds of family and shared heritage are proving to be a much, much stronger economic force than the traditional financial mechanisms we usually hear about on the news. Okay, before unpacking her full argument, let's just make sure we're on the same page about a core concept, the remittance. A remittance is simply a transfer of money, usually sent by a migrant worker back to an individual, very often a family member in their home country. Ola David identifies this specific transaction as the ultimate financial expression of kinship. When we talk about blood in her economic proverb, this is exactly what she means. This isn't just some clinical bank transfer. It's hard-earned cash sent out of love, duty, and familial connection, rather than, say, corporate profit or geopolitical strategy. To really understand the power of remittances, we need to look at the wider landscape of how money actually enters capital-poor nations. Historically, there are four main lifelines for international capital injections. You've got official development assistance, or ODA, foreign direct investment, known as FDI, portfolio debt and equity flows, and finally, remittances. She describes these four categories as the critical oils keeping the wheels of national development turning. Without these injections, a lot of low and middle-income economies would literally just grind to a halt. Ola David contrasts two very different survival strategies that countries use to secure that crucial capital. On one side, we have the top-bottom approach. This is where governments embark on massive, intensive investment promotion campaigns and structural reforms, all meticulously designed to court the benevolence of foreign aid donors. She views this as chasing the water. On the other side, she presents the bottom-up approach. This is an inward-looking, citizen-centered strategy that relies heavily on kinship ties and the diaspora. This is the blood. And here is the staggering reality. While governments spend enormous amounts of time, energy, and resources courting those foreign donors and restructuring their economies to please outsiders, the evidence proves something entirely different. Migrant remittance flows, the money sent home by everyday people, are actually the most steady and resilient source of domestic capital accumulation. The blood absolutely outperforms the water. The human connection outperforms the bureaucratic one. To cement her argument, she points us to a highly specific and critical data point from the World Bank, the year 2020. Now, we all know what happened in 2020. It was the absolute peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Global markets were in freefall, borders were completely locked down, and economic uncertainty was at an all-time high. It was basically the ultimate stress test for every single form of international capital flow we looked at just a minute ago. Well, when the dust settled, the revelation was incredible. She highlights the reality that while other economic sectors just collapsed, and while foreign direct investment and development assistance wavered under the intense global strain, remittance flows defied all pessimistic projections. They remained remarkably strong and steady. Think about that. Even when migrant workers themselves were facing sudden job losses and terrifying health crises, they still found a way to send money home. Their kinship ties held strong exactly when the traditional top-down economic systems fractured. Based on this undeniable evidence, her conclusion demands a radical pivot in strategy. Instead of constantly looking outward for foreign aid, she states that development managers need to focus on these bottom-up, citizen-centered approaches. She summarizes it perfectly. Harness indigenous human resources and deploy effective diaspora relations to build local economic resilience. It's a vital call to recognize that the true wealth and stability of a developing nation lies in its people, no matter where in the world they might currently reside. Her analysis leaves us to ponder a really provocative thought about the future of global development finance. If the data clearly shows that kinship, the blood, is the true, resilient engine of economic development, why do so many governments still expend the vast majority of their efforts prioritizing the water of foreign aid? It completely reframes how we should look at global economics. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer on Oluyomi Ola David's incredible insights, and I'll leave you with that question to think about.